Well,
Sure.
acknowledge it, since kind of talking about it. I want to give Aaron and Ben credit for their new show as well. So, Aaron, do you want to mention it?
Sure, I can. So Ben and I started a YouTube channel. I'm Aaron, he's Ben, A&B Horror Movies, and we talk about beer and horror movies, and it's been quite awesome. So
That's a
check
great
us out on,
combination.
yes.
Yeah, I just said excellent combination.
He's from the UK, I'm from Massachusetts, and we're giving it a go. We started in April.
We got Marco.
Well, I know we all been kind of shooting the shit during the movie and questions and whatnot. But does anybody, especially because Catherine joined late, does anybody want to ask questions, whatever, that we didn't get to during the movie? Feel free.
A kitty.
I know.
I was looking
I'm
at
just
the-
focusing on the cat right now.
I know. Sorry.
Yeah, I have to lock my cat out of the office I'm in now because she likes to eat everything. I got about a 13-month-old cat.
What time's your thing at?
What's
Oh.
that?
He eats everything, like
Or
Like-
games?
humans,
Well,
wires, all things,
Hold on, let me look.
Yeah.
Up this.
anything not breathing.
anything.
Well, let me put it this way. I don't know what family member decided to do this, but I got screwed
that.
because now I got screwed and have to buy this cat shrimp.
Shrimp.
Yes.
That's some gourmet cat feed.
Yeah, exactly. And at
That
20,
one game or
and at $20 a bag right now with inflation and stuff, it's like, you're
What?
killing me, cat.
That cat
I
eats.
spoiled the shit out of my cat. They're worth it.
Yeah.
I will die on this hill.
Yes, yes.
This
Oh,
guy
it's-
eats a particular cat food with quail eggs in it.
Oh, it started
nice.
out with
Oh my God.
rotisserie chickens, and now we're on the shrimp.
Very wow, my dog is sitting at my feet listening to this. Like, what in the hell, human?
Luna's like, excuse me, I have some requests.
Yeah.
Actually, that pooch that you just saw was on set with us at one
She
point.
was. Luna was on set, which is so funny to think about. She's just turned 9. So she's like,
Oh.
I know, she's like an old lady that was in her youth when she was
My cat turns 10 this year.
Oh,
We
That's
shot
wild.
that 7
Oh,
years ago.
that's awesome.
Yeah, 7 years ago. That's insane.
mhm. And now Luna comes to set pretty regularly with me. I mean, not like always, like, if I'm traveling, like she comes to the hotel, and so like
No.
she visits. That was her first experience of the industry. It went well.
fell
Now,
in love.
with that being said, excuse me, are the crews taking a job? Are they accepting of bringing animals to set or to travel with you?
It depends on the job, but like typically you can be, depending on what you need, like, so like I'm in LA now and I'll have to travel in a couple weeks for a weekend, and I can get a dog sitter for a weekend. But like if it's a month, sometimes depending, I'll just ask if the hotel is like pet friendly, and or wherever they have me, and if I can bring her. And usually they're pretty good. They don't want her like on set, typically. That was like a weird luck. That was just like a weird day that she was on set for Terrifier.
She's very well behaved though. Like she was very calm.
Yeah, she's pretty
that
good
day.
about it. Her like defense mechanism when she's like stressed anyway is just to lay down and like put her head in her hands, like below.
Same.
She's just like, oh. So like it kind of like, she's pretty good. She did come to a convention recently because I just moved out here and I didn't have a sitter. And so she came, and it was driving distance. So she came, and we did bring her down on the convention floor for like a little bit, but she just laid with her head in between her hands, like miserable. So I got her back to the room with some snacks.
Sweet baby.
Not about stardom. It wasn't for her. She needs her privacy.
Nothing wrong with that. Like Jenna was making a joke when we were dealing with some tech issues at first about her cat. No, you were talking about your cat that you had to go through the agent.
Oh.
That she
I
was
was like,
going to
I've
make
already
an appearance.
forgotten what I said.
Yeah, no, it wasn't nothing bad.
Yes, no, my cat, it's true. She's very, yes, she has demands
Yeah.
that need to be met.
It's a lot of work to book her on a project, you know. She's always above the
true.
line. She's always got
Yeah.
like weird riders in her contract.
Scale plus 10. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
She won't work more than 8 hours. She won't work more than 3 hours at a time.
Not even an 8. She doesn't do the 8.
Yeah, no.
Half days
Union
only.
mandated nap breaks. Union mandated breaks to lick her butt.
Oh, and then
Seriously.
people, it's funny. I have friends who have dogs and stuff, and the whole licking in a butt. Then they come over and kiss you. It's like, I don't know where that tongue's been.
I know exactly where that tongue's been.
Well, yeah, I try not
On
to
her
think
butt.
about it. Yeah. Oh boy.
Denise, I like that you moved rooms, but he's still behind you.
Still
that's
Freddy.
so funny.
He's everywhere.
Always
He's-
lurking.
He's always right here. He's always with us
In our dreams.
in our dreams.
Oh,
So, with that being said, and that's a good little segue we can take here with this Q&A and whatnot. For the 3 guests from the movie, other than this great character of Art the Clown, who is your favorite character or franchise from other horror series?
Oh, from other horror series.
Does it have to be like a killer? Can it just be like a
What-
character?
Whatever you want.
Ooh.
I think this, I've already talked about this, but I'm a huge, like, I'm just a Buffy the Vampire Slayer like person.
Oh, yeah.
Find my youth. So like any of those characters are kind of my favorites. The original, like from film, just turned 30, which was like kind of a fun thing. And I do like some of the characters in the original too. So I mean, that's a big one for me. I think, I don't know. I love yesterday I was on set and I was channeling my inner Gollum because I'm a big Lord of the Rings person. So, you know, I really have a sentimental, I feel we are kindred spirits. I don't know if you can see the resemblance, but I don't know,
Almost
it's like-
twins. It's impeccable.
It gets to a point, I think, when you're doing these like overnights where it's like 3:00 in the morning and like just reality ceases to exist. This was a lot of overnights and like,
Oh yeah, I was talking about that earlier. Because
Yeah.
you had asked if it was, you were like, was it fun? I was like, yes, but also we were insane by the end of it.
you just like, you get to a point where like, yeah, reality kind of ceases to exist. And like, you're also like, you shouldn't do this. And the union is probably doesn't encourage this, but like, you know, like part of being like a freelancer in this business is constantly hustling. So you're like working during the day too, even though you're only contracted to work at night, not usually on the same project. And like, so at a certain point, like you just have no concept of reality and everyone's just got the giggles and like, so
Yeah.
it is fun, but it's also like just a weird state of perpetual delirium.
I think one of my favorites is which at the convention that we did over Halloween, I dressed up as him because it was Halloween. In The Witch, Black Phillip, the goat.
Oh yeah.
It's probably one of my favorites.
Have you seen the Northman yet? I've been wanting
No,
to.
not yet.
I'm all about some like crazy Viking drama.
No, I'm very curious. I just saw Men, the Alex Garland movie, the guy who did Ex
Oh.
Machina,
I heard that's
and I
great.
love Ex Machina. Men was fucking weird.
Was weird. Oh, okay, I've heard good things. I'm interested.
Really weird.
Yeah, I'm interested to see it
I don't think I'm familiar with it.
with Ex Machina.
No, I'm familiar with Ex Machina. I'm not familiar with Men. I think I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
It's the new one.
Yeah, it hasn't
Just-
gotten
it
as
just
much
came
press.
out.
It's the same
Yeah.
director. Yeah, it just came out. It's very, very strange. If you watch it, please let me know because I need to talk. I need to process with somebody.
When I have some like
Good.
downtime. Right now I'm in
Yeah.
like watching the like whatever the most recent series of Stranger Things is, and I watch it in like 15-minute increments and just pass out. So it's like so once I like get back to like a normal waking schedule, I'll watch it and
That's
check
fair.
it out.
That's fair. Yeah,
So
I
do-
also think I love I don't know what it's called, but the like creature from the original Paranormal Activity movie that you never actually see.
Those are always the really
To this
creepy
day
ones.
scares the shit out of me. Yes. That movie is, and talk about indie movies. They made that movie for like something like $10,000.
You can hear the steps coming up the stairs, the footsteps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Scary as hell.
I think
So
Yeah.
scary.
I think for
This
me,
is more sometimes.
Yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. It's a
Mhm.
very different take.
yeah, I
horror.
think like for me that's the scare when you're talking things that are frightening, like that's
Yeah.
what scares me the most is the things
Me
that
too.
you can't see and like don't have a physical
Mhm.
entity, because that's like so real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a real thing. And then also like
Yeah.
human beings are really frightening to me. Like supernatural creatures are kind of fun and endearing at a certain point, but like actual humans
Because
and
it's so
their
real.
violence, that's like
Yeah, exactly.
their, like psychoses, that's really terrifying.
You know, it
Mhm.
was funny because I was on the phone with my mom before we got started with this, and I was like, "Hey, I gotta go hosting the Terrifier watch along, yada yada yada." And she goes, "She likes scary movies, but she goes, what's that?" So I was trying to quickly explain the concept. Oh, it's a clown. She goes, "It? No, you know, it's a different version." Yeah, trying to explain things to her, and she goes, "Oh, okay. I don't know why people are freaked out about that." I said, "Well, why do you say that?" You know, opens you up to question, a Q&A session. I said, "Well, Mom, think about it this way. You know, with the psychological thrillers, this, that, and the other that we see with the movie, the different combinations of things." She goes, "Well, why can't everything be like Final Destination in that series?"
What kind of question is that?
I mean, honestly, the Final Destination series though is really terrifying to me because like
It
that's
is.
things that could actually happen. I
Exactly.
Think, like
What's her
the-
point?
Yeah, like there are certain like there's like a suspension of disbelief, like even I guess like because I'm watching Stranger Things, like the idea of like this like alternate dimension, like yes, I guess theoretically I would like that to exist, but like does it? Yeah, I don't know if I can like physically be afraid of that. Something I don't really can't conceptualize, but like plummeting to my death on a roller coaster, yes, that's something that could actually happen to me.
I was gonna say
with all the logs. Like
I was
Yeah.
literally about to say that, girl. I was literally about to be like, I think all of us, every
Anytime I
time
see them,
we're
like,
on the highway behind a truck with a bunch of trees, we're like, this
Oh,
ain't
yeah.
it. I'm changing lanes.
Yeah.
This is not how I'm going out.
I habitually change lanes, like just subconsciously, whenever I'm behind like a large tractor trailer, if I can avoid it.
Yes,
Exactly.
we were collectively scarred by those movies.
Yeah.
Oh, a kitty! Another kitty! There's been a kitty sighting. I have to interrupt every time there's a kitty sighting.
And I do want to acknowledge, even though she wasn't directly involved on the call and such, but she was trying to help out publicly. I want to say thank you to Jen Brown, who
Yes,
both of you ladies
we
know.
love her.
Yeah, Jen was trying to help out besides the email I originally sent to Miss Catherine. And so, without getting into too much behind the scenes stuff, thank you, Jen, if you hear this.
Thanks,
Enjoy.
Jen.
I do
Yeah.
appreciate you, or I should say I'm a little jealous that she's working STP tonight, but that's a whole nother deal.
What's STP? She said she was doing something. What's STP?
Yeah.
Stone Temple Pilots.
Stone Temple Pilots, really?
Oh,
Ooh.
I'm sorry. I know them. I just don't
Awesome.
know by
I didn't know there was an abbreviation. I'm not
I
in
know,
on
I'm
the
same.
Yeah, she no,
Well,
she
the
I'm not
acronyms.
cool enough.
yeah, sorry. My
I know
apologies.
who they
but-
are.
Yeah, no, she I said and I invited her to join and everything else because she was helping with Catherine as well. But she goes, unfortunately, I'm gonna be working with Stone Temple Pilots.
She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm very busy.
And you know
With
what? Like I said, I'm
STP.
jealous. I'm jealous of it but that's a whole nother
Yeah,
thing.
no, we love Jen. For anyone who doesn't know,
Okay.
Jen is our appearance agent. She's lovely.
She's
Yeah.
amazing.
She's a big old horror nerd.
Yeah. I can't think of it. I think it's the con agency. I just got recently connected to her because of another another friend of the show who's a fan and goes to a lot of shows. So I just wanted to acknowledge Jen as well and hope she's having fun. But we
That's
talked
in
about
spirit.
yes. But speaking of conventions and all that, because it's kind of been talked about throughout the night. For you guys, have you ever met somebody at a convention that you were like so excited to meet or geeked out or whatever the case is? Because I'm gonna throw Aaron under the bus here. I'm sorry, not that he met her directly. And Aaron, don't look at me with the quiz look. This is a good thing. I went to, but he never knows what's going to come out of my mouth, which is the funny thing. But yeah, which is good and bad.
Shoot, go for it.
Because Catherine mentioned recently the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
went.
did you meet Christy Swanson and like pee your pants? Because I would.
Yeah, no, I was going to a show in Atlantic City to see some friends of the show, like Sandy Johnson and a few others from the horror realm. And Aaron said, I mentioned to Aaron, hey, I'm doing this show, yada, yada, yada. He goes, can you get me an autograph of Christy Swanson and this, that, and it? He was so excited that
Mhm,
I think
mhm.
he may have peed his pants.
Oh, and it was one of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer pictures.
So cool.
So
Oh,
cool.
wow.
He was so thrilled that I was able to do that for him. It was like,
Yeah,
Yes, thank you, man.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not a huge like Joss Whedon advocate or anything, but like that series, so good. You know,
Mhm, mhm.
I understand.
It was before we knew. It was
It was
before we knew.
knew. Yes.
About him.
Exactly.
And
I will say,
People were
look,
too accepting of that
Go ahead.
behavior is all it was.
I didn't.
What?
People were generally just too accepting of that behavior. I don't think it's really
Yeah,
the
yeah,
case.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Different time.
I will say the first I had done like comic cons, but never like horror cons until Terrifier. And the first one that we kind of did together, Jenna and I, was in upstate New York pre-plague, and 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 we got there, and this actress that I've really admired like most of my career, and she happens to be like a friend of some actors I know, but like, I've never met
Oh,
her.
Barbara?
Yeah, like ran
Yeah.
over and was like, oh my God, Catherine, like I just saw you in this film, Long Lost. You were like so great, blah, 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 blah. And it was like an obscure like film that like a lot of people like at the convention wouldn't have even known about. And like,
Yeah.
I was just like, my mouth just like fell to the ground.
Barbara Crampton. You guys
yeah.
know who Barbara Crampton is.
of
Yeah,
course.
so I was just
Yeah.
like, you watched I watch your
Yeah.
movies. Like,
She ran over two. Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
and
amazing.
she's
That's
so
right.
cool, and she's such a like, I think, I mean, and Jenna, I feel like we're really in line on this. Like, ultimately, I think if we ever have the platform to do so, like the ability to like push for diversity and inclusion in entertainment and in film, and also like particularly for
Yeah.
women, is a huge thing. And Barbara really lives and breathes that every single day.
She's got a very cool career. Yeah.
And she she has this column where she talks about like the idea on the concept around Scream Queen, but then like she
Yeah.
produces things, and she's constantly building up other actresses and recommending them for projects. Like when she gets, you get offers all the time, and if it's not something she can do, she'll often recommend somebody else, which I just think is really, really cool. And like,
It's really cool. Yeah. She's
yeah,
very much an advocate for other people, which is awesome and kind of unfortunately rare in the industry, I think.
yeah, I think it can be really isolating, and especially now,
Yeah.
it's really isolating. So just seeing someone like that who's really not only has such a great career and gives such dynamic range of performances in and out of genre, but who really advocates for that and pushes for that change, is so cool, in my opinion. So that was just like one of the coolest moments for me.
Hey, Aaron,
Yeah.
because she mentioned the name of Barbara Crampton, advocating and stuff. If I remember the story correctly, because I know you were there when we did Texas Chainsaw 2 with Caroline Williams.
Yes.
Wasn't it Barbara Crampton? She mentioned that advocated for her for a particular role?
That's so funny. I know what you're
To
talking about.
take the role,
Same
right?
director of that film that I was saying that Barbara had watched from me. That film is called 10 Minutes to Midnight. And so
Oh,
same
Boom.
thing. Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah, it's so funny. I know that story. Yeah.
I just
Um,
ordered
Holy
a copy.
shit.
I have a copy somewhere around here. I can't find it.
holy
and,
shit.
and you know what? What's really cool is like that energy really like translates. Like I haven't unfortunately been able to see her, but I've never met Caroline.
Oh,
And
you would love her.
she constantly posts stuff about us, about Jenna and I. And I just moved to LA and she reached out to me and was like, let's get lunch. Like, let's eat all. It's like, and I just think that that's such a cool energy that I think it's just a connection that all of us have as actors and creators working in genre that is unique and so cool to have this little family of support system. I think.
Have you ever, besides that, reaching out there, and I'm sorry we're sidetracking from the conversation we were having, but have you ever had a conversation with her other than over social media and such like that?
Caroline, once on the phone because I called someone and she happened to be working with them and she was in the car. But
Okay.
not like,
Oh wow.
Okay. Well,
That's wild.
not because not over, yes, but once quickly over the phone.
okay, because the reason I asked, and I've dealt with Caroline for maybe a year and a half and such, and I'm not sitting here claiming to be best friends with her and whatnot, but I got a good bullshit sniffer, as I like to say, being from the Northeast here. Caroline, I think you would like. She is as real gets, but she's also the sweetest person you will meet.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's funny that you do the story about with Eric Bloomquist and all that funny stuff. So, but I think when you do get together for lunch with her, you will really appreciate the genuine human being she is.
Oh, well, thank you. That's good to know.
Yeah.
I think we have a nice little group here. Like even all like Matt, Jenna, all of us we still keep in touch. And when we are all together, it's a lot of fun. I talk to Jenna, pretty frequently. I feel like more so than I think a lot of people that, you do projects and people come in and out of your life. It's like a temporary family, but this little family, we do keep in touch.
Yeah.
And, like push for each other, which is really, really
Yeah,
nice.
we talk fairly often.
There's a thing that
Very nice.
Mike Nichols, the director, would supposedly say about his projects, and he obviously was a guy who was very established, and whatever he said, he would say no shitheads. And I just felt like Terrifier had no shitheads. It was just there was that one weird bald guy. I don't know if you remember that guy. He was weird. but otherwise it was just like I don't know, everybody was just like good-natured people. It was crazy. Because and I've worked on plenty of projects where I found everybody likable, but it's rare I've worked on projects where everybody's likable and talented. It was pretty unique experience in that regard, I thought.
Yeah, and I love that. I feel like, I don't know, every time we're all together and like, again, we're all over the country and things are busy, but like when we are able to all get together, we have like the best time. And I mean, like, I know I can call Jenna anytime,
Yeah.
or anything, and like, I think she knows that vice versa. And even like,
Yeah.
Sam, like Jenna got to work with Sam, but I didn't have any days with Sam. And now like all of us keep in touch and like still, so it's really a nice little family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you guys are all part of it too.
Yeah.
Oh, yay!
Well, I want to go back to that previous
High five,
question.
Cassidy.
Oh, like, where's my camera?
Well, for Jenna and Matt, I'm curious to know because Catherine talked about the run-in with Barbara. Did you guys have anybody that you were excited to meet at conventions and such? Go ahead.
I have one regret about we were at Chiller was the first convention I ever did. So and I don't go to them. So I also like to tease people. You asked about your favorite horror film character. I don't really watch horror movies. I love to tease Terrifier films, but like no, so actually Michael Myers is a bit cheesy to pick such a known guy, but I just love that it's a William Shatner mask and it's fucking so creepy.
It's true.
So I've always kind of been, and I'm a film buff, so I've always watched horror movies, but that is kind of my favorite guy if I had to pick one. But no, yeah, I have a regret about Chiller. I got so nervous around the dudes from the Warriors. I couldn't ask for their autograph. I was just too nervous.
Oh, the Warriors.
And,
Okay.
and it was one of those things where I thought I would do it, and then like I didn't do it. I was near them, and I was like, oh my God, and I got to take a photo, and my brother's gonna freak out, and I was like, I'll do it later, and I was like panicked, and I just couldn't do it. But the funny thing is, the dude from Adventures in Babysitting.
Oh my God, I forgot about that movie.
And also don't tell your mom the babysitter's dead. He's a super nice guy. He was in the same room as us at that Chiller convention in New Jersey, and I got to drive him to his hotel in New York City because I'm a driver. And he was super nice, man. And it was cool because I don't know if you guys remember Don't Tell the Mom the Babysitter's Dead, but there was a trailer line with famous for saying the dishes are done, man, when he shot all the dishes because Christina Applegate told him to do the dishes, and he takes that gun and he just shoots them. And
I'm gonna rewatch that.
yeah, and so he actually would sign a dish for you. But I mean, me and my friends growing up must have said that line 5 million times, and that was just so cool. I couldn't believe it. We're just in a car, chilling out. I don't know. It was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and I can't recommend if any of you haven't gone to a convention or only been once or twice. Man, it's just such a good vibe.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. Hopefully, we can all meet at one at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Post
Hey, Jenna, did you have any good experiences such as that?
I mean, I've only done, I guess, 3 conventions. I'm looking at Katie as though because I feel like they've all been the same ones that you've been at. But I mean, they've all been really good experiences. The thing that made me lose my shit was that I don't know if anyone else watches Dragula by the Boulet brothers, but it's a drag show, but like a horror drag show. Yes,
the Terrifier
so it's like,
thing.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I literally there's an episode where they're it was, I guess, sponsored by Dread Central or something, and there are all these drag queens talking about how much they love Terrifier, and I literally wept. I was sitting here in this exact spot watching Shudder, watching Dragula, and I just openly crying because I was just because I already loved that show, and I watched the first 3 seasons, and then all of a sudden on a show I already loved, they're talking about this movie and how gung-ho they are about it, and I was I'm tearing up now just thinking about it. It was just so beautiful. It was just one of those worlds colliding thing, and it
was awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Well,
even though I didn't get to meet them,
trying to decapitate Santa Claus, or I don't know if you
can hear it. I can hear that, and meanwhile, I apologize if you can hear that my neighbors are having some sort of party. The walls here are unfortunately very thin.
You can have
nice. Well, I have one more question, unless other fans have stuff. Please feel free to step up. But I don't know what it is. The world's coming together and whatnot as far as the entertainment industry, as far as because on the podcast version of the show, I've been talking to a lot of musicians dealing with who have come out gay or this, that, the other, just different people from different walks of life, and just we've been talking about equality of things as far as movie making and TV and stuff. Have you guys noticed changes for the good?
Yeah.
Hold on. Oh. One of your switching over. Can you hear me?
We got you.
You can. What about now?
We still got you.
Why is it not connected though? That's
I mean,
we can still hear you.
You can still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, how dare my computer try to interrupt the journey to equality like this?
That bastard.
The one thing I'll mention is that I see Puya working a lot.
Yeah.
I think I saw her work as a woman judge. You know, I don't know. It just that she was just a woman. She was just a judge.
Yeah, I mean, she is a woman. She's a very, very accomplished trans woman. It's very cool to see. And Katie and I have talked about how cool it is that the casting of Terrifier was, like, whether Damien meant to or not, fairly diverse. I mean, I identify as queer, really bisexual, but I just say queer because then it acknowledges that there are more than that. There's not a gender binary. I mean, I feel I definitely see progress. I mean, obviously we have a lot of way to go. We have a lot of progress still to make, but it feels like we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are some times for sure where it's still frustrating.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I don't want to feel that. I don't want to say that we are where we need to be, because we're not. But I will say I have seen so much more inclusivity and a conscious effort towards that, which I think is half the battle. Just being aware and trying to be better. I think that's huge. I mean, I don't know on every production, but I've noticed on most productions now, people have their pronouns next to on the call sheet next to.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't seen that yet. That's really
out
neat.
here, I've noticed it a lot, which I didn't notice when I was working in New York as much. So that's been really cool. And I think there's just things like that make such a difference. This time of year, I think about this a lot, just because it's Pride Month. I remember the first lead I ever had in a feature was 9 years ago, and we premiered that film at Cannes, and we were named the first lesbian wedding at Cannes because of a weird chain of events, and between myself and our co-star, our two characters, and it was a huge scandal at the time because gay marriage had only been legal there 4 days, and it wasn't legal in the United States yet. And so when we got back, while it was very cool, we got a lot of recognition. There was a lot of hurdles and conversations that we had to have that were really challenging and kind of made me very uncomfortable at 19 years old. And that things just weren't, we constantly had to defend the relationship and push for just respect in how we were being spoken to. And I feel like that would be something that wouldn't happen as much now, I would hope. I think especially a film that had been screened at the Cannes Film Festival, there'd be a lot more respect and comfortability about this conversation.
Yeah.
And to think that was only 9 years ago is really crazy to me. So I do see that we've made such progress in just such a short amount of time, which is wonderful. But I think it's also really important to not take our foot off the gas just because we're in a post-Trump America. There's so much work to be done. There's especially
well put.
Now looking at the possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned, all of these things. There's so much that we still have to keep doing and keep fighting for. And where you see that first and foremost is in the stories that you consume. That's the closest we can be as humans to understanding another human's reality. So it's super important, not just that we push for it in media, but that we consume media that educates ourselves and helps us do better.
I love it.
2 cents on that.
Well,
Yeah, and it's so cool that we watched this tonight together as a part of a fundraiser for something so violent, and we're watching this movie that's very violent, and yet I think a lot of times horror fans are we take out our violence in our art because we aren't actually that way in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that I thought about that after I announced it, and I go, what the dichotomy of that? You just said we're supporting violence victims with watching something violent. You know, like it's
But art is where the violence should stay.
yeah.
Well,
No.
and also, I mean, I think these things have a place because we are, as a society, so surrounded by such extreme acts of violence every day. And this is an interesting way for us to psychologically process that. And I think it's really important for anybody who's watching this, if they do feel a tendency towards violent acts because they're feeling isolated when they're watching something like this, that there is a community here for you that supports you, and like that's like there are resources and there are groups that you can talk to, and you know, and you aren't alone. I think that's such a huge thing that this community hopefully instills in people.
You know, I'm thinking of go ahead. I'm sorry, Jenna.
No, I was just agreeing.
Okay.
I'm quite mentally disturbed, and I feel very held by the horror community and by the film community.
Well, when
I have no desire to do violence. I just mean I'm depressed.
I just think most violence at this point in human life is emotional. And I think there's just something about a lot of horror fans that I've come to know because of this film, just wear their emotions on their sleeves. They're very emotionally connected people.
Yeah.
And usually violence is related to a lack of control over one's emotions. So there's something interesting, like you said, Jenna, about channeling it. You know, finding a realm for it, and not to be physically violent or you're actually an aggressive person, but I have a darkness inside of me I'm aware of, and you know, like I said, I'm not a tough guy. I'm not out fighting anybody, but you know, there's a darkness there, and there's something very vulnerable about horror fans and the way they just openly are like, that's fucking great. You know, like, I don't know, seeing some violent kill, but at the same time, they're so often, Damien himself being someone who encapsulates it. I mean, he's just the nicest, calmest person, and I wouldn't necessarily want to open up his mind and take a look inside. It's pretty intense. It's just something that we as humans have to contend with. It's part of our nature to one extent or another. Yeah,
I think it's just about consciously choosing to use it to bring us together instead of keep us apart.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our demons, right? We all struggle with our own monsters, and horror provides an outlet where you can see that, you know, personified in a way that, and process it in a way that maybe you couldn't on your own. And so it's really important to know that you have a community there as you're processing, and that so many other people feel exactly how you do. And you know, it's the actual real life violence is never the answer to anything. And there's so many resources in such a community for you if you need them.
I was sitting here thinking with those serious answers, and I'm old enough I was in high school when Columbine happened all those years ago. And at the time, you would hear some of the discussion, and I don't know if it's still there with things, because in certain aspects, unfortunately, I think we've, as a society, gotten numb to certain things, such as
we have to in order to get up every day and get out of bed.
Yeah, but
shitty position.
You would hear things. I remember hearing things back in the day where certain media pundits, and I'm not saying which side or the other or whatever the case is, that's not my place to say, but they would blame movies or certain music and all video games or doom
heavy metal music, video games,
it's heavy metal music. They're doing this to us.
As three folks that work in the entertainment genre, do you see an actual correlation with that?
No. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I've never seen that correlation at all. And I think anyone you talk to who makes these really dark pieces of art or music or cinema, would tell you that it is a larger metaphor for society or the demons that, or something that's going on in their life or the demons that they're facing. And sometimes it's a way to process that, but I've never seen a correlation personally.
Yeah, I think it's art reflecting life, not the other way around.
Mhm.
Like, I think we create art to process what's happening around us and to you know, to like deal with the things that we see and the things that we experience and the things that we feel. We, you know, yeah. I mean, I think it's just a very easy scapegoat to point at media and blame it for the violence, when I think media is the only refuge we have sometimes from the violence that we actually experience on a day-to-day basis.
And Matt referenced Damon as far as his such an oxymoron. Yes, it was a violent film, Terrifier and all that stuff, but he's such a nice guy, grounded guy. And the other one that I can think of off the top of my head that would be like that is Wes Craven, where
Of blessed memory, yes.
where people had a certain perception of him, but when they met the man or saw the man in interviews or whatever the case, whoa, he's actually a grounded, very educated person. It's like it separated the assumption that people would have of people who make the entertainment. So
My only thought on it is that I think in isolation, each and every project is by no means like responsible for anyone's behavior.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I do think making a leap between a person doing something violent because of a movie, whatever, maybe there was some kinetic connection there, but there's millions of people that play video games, do all this stuff, and they never heard a fly.
Mm-hmm.
Main thing is I'm a little pissed off these days about how we talk about mental health, which I think is relevant and part of it, but there's crazy people that never touch a hair on anyone's head.
Yeah.
So there's something existential at work, and I would say that a lot of what Hollywood puts out is violent, and I'm not so sure. I think that that constancy of imagery is maybe not the healthiest thing for our society. We could maybe do some stuff that's not so violent, but
if I may,
but that's my only thought, because the truth is, in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s, a lot of censorship. Pardon me, Jen. I'm just going to finish my thought.
no, you're good. I didn't mean to get. I have a knee-jerk reaction to this. I can be a human and wait.
Presence the way it is now, and I think the wrong person, the wrong whacked out dude, surrounded by so much of that. And notice I said dude because it's almost always a dude.
It's always a dude.
It's
I
like
grew up with two girls that ended up on death row. Two girls I went to school with and grew up with in a small town ended up on death row.
We're all right about it.
And I heard something the other day. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I heard a reporter the other day say, "Oh, you know, you don't usually see this kind of behavior out of a woman." And I said, "Back it up. There are a lot of violent women in this world.
Anybody capable of anything.
People don't want to accept it, so it's not as prevalent because the men have been doing it for decades openly."
I think there's just more statistically violent men. I think Chelsea Handler made a really good joke about this. That was quite funny. I just saw her stand up and she said, you know, men have asked me on dates like, "Oh, is it still okay to open the door for women in this like feminist era?" And she goes, "Yes, open it twice. You've been raping us for decades." I mean, I think a lot. I think, you know, everybody is a human being and is capable of you know, tapping into all sorts of terrible dark places, and you know, we've seen that. But I do think our society in general tends to glorify and accept violence from men, and because of that, women tend to more often than not be the victims of extreme violence.
Well, and we don't allow. We're like it's.
Go ahead.
It's also like we villainize mental health for men. I mean, that's part of the problem, is that like we create this system in which men are not allowed to feel, which is not fair or healthy.
No,
You know,
Yeah.
what I was going to say, just real quick, because I know it's 10 p.m. where I am, so I shouldn't be doing all this, but just I real quick did want to add, because you're right about the violent imagery. However, I do think that in terms of violent imagery, I wouldn't point the blame at movies. I would point the blame at like war. Like when I think about the violent imagery that I've seen, most of it is like what the military industrial complex has done, and like the ways in which we've like done horrific things to people in the name of power and money and gas, rather than like the movies. And I do think that we use movies to process all of that, because I think most of the violence that we see that we want to say is coming from media is like war and like poverty is a horrific form of violence that I see everywhere I go when I leave the house. And, you know, systemic oppression is violent. And like, I think all of these are just forms of violence that we've accepted. And so it's easier to say, well, here's a clown stabbing someone in the face. That's violence. And yes, it is, but that's a fictional violence. Whereas, you know,
so real that you can walk out and see every day.
Yeah.
The real monsters walk among us.
And
it's like, how do you define violence, you know?
Yeah, and I think people don't realize, you know, that violence isn't something that just is inherently crazy and someone just like more often than not it's more
systemic.
I mean, extreme poverty begets violent acts, begets crime, you know, systematic oppression that creates cycles of poverty and lack of education and resources to healthcare or mental health, especially mental health care, creates, you know, not only violent acts but internal struggle.
Well, I think that's a form of violence in and of itself.
Yeah. I mean, outward.
Like I think, you know, I know we're on the same page about this, but like, you know, I think
and then
withholding resources from people is violence.
Yeah, and then you see things like and to bring it full circle with what Jen is talking about, you know, in the military industrial complex, like you see it because, you know, how that people have to enlist within the military to get a form of education because they can't afford education or access to healthcare. You know, all of these things. And then of course our country doesn't have nearly as much things as it needs to be in place for these people after they've just been forced to go and fight these atrocious battles on behalf of wealth and power and gas, and then come back to regular society and process all of this. Like there's not enough resources in place for those people, for their family. Like it just is it's a perpetual cycle. And I think
I'm sorry, I'm not smiling because of what you're saying, because this is all, you're absolutely right, and it's all atrocious. I'm smiling because I'm thinking of them being like, have the Terrifier people on, they said. It'll be fun and light and easy. We won't talk about anything like heavy. They won't try to fix everything at 10 p.m.
No, but let me just make one statement regarding that, because I don't disagree with anything that was said really overall, but I guess what I'm saying is I think the studio system in Hollywood in general could stand to seek out different kinds of projects. That's my only thought. I think if it makes an impact on actual violence in the real world, it's minute. It's marginal at best. I'm only saying that, you know, it's like there's a lot of Hollywood people that talk a lot of jazz, and then they're like, I'm gonna go make this movie where I shoot 75 guns from 85. It's just I just think we could stand to maybe emphasize just a different storytelling. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's totally true.
I think something I wish I would see more of. That's all. I don't think movies violence is the reason anyone really commits violence writ large. I don't think.
I totally agree. And I think like we see that's something, I guess, when we're talking about progress in entertainment, that I think we can all relate to, having worked pretty heavily in the indie world. It's hard. It's so hard to have, when you're trying to tell a story about, you know, a marginalized group of people or person that maybe is not the flashiest story in terms of like production value. Maybe there aren't these high-end action sequences or whatever, and maybe it is, you know, it features, you know, a minority person or woman. It is so hard to get those films made, to get those films funded. It's such an uphill battle, and that does make it really hard, I think, for people to see people they can identify with on screen, and also find resources and resolutions and conversations around what they may or may not be struggling with. Because the reality is, unfortunately, like the bigger studio system just doesn't see dollar signs when they see those projects. So
Yeah,
so they get put aside, and it's unfortunate, and it is a problem. So I guess to bring it full circle, if there's anything that I would like to see, and I think we're all on the same page with this, I would like to see, you know, the entertainment system invest in these smaller pictures and these like up and coming filmmakers with different backgrounds, particularly, you know, non-binary and women of color. I would love to see stories being told about communities that maybe aren't the flashiest to see on screen. You know, that I think is that's where we can really help as creators and people who work in entertainment and storytellers, is pushing to see stories that other people can identify with, and that hopefully give them a sense of community that doesn't lead you to such a hopeless state where you want to not harm others and yourself.
Yeah. Well, I would say also one thing about today's day and age is that there's actually so much content out there, and there's a lot of content that fits within the sort of parameters we're discussing. Like, God damn it, I'm trying to think of a show I watched on Netflix at random that was about a guy that got out of jail. He was wrongly convicted, and it was about, you know, homicide and all this kind of stuff, and it just was so heartfelt, and there was tension in it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of, did he do it or didn't he do it? And, you know, in the end we realized he didn't, but like there's just no actual violence, you know, and it was just such a good show. I wish I could remember it. I can't.
Well, I can't think of the name.
I will say, if anyone is looking for a film that is not a really action-packed film, but that does deal with this topic of mass shootings, there is a film called Mass. That's a really good friend of mine, Fran Kranz, directed. Teeny tiny indie film, has really been like the indie film that can, but I think it's on Hulu now, and it is 4 actors in a room talking about a school shooting. There are 2 parents years later. Both have lost their children in the shooting. One parent couple is the victim. Child was one of the victims, and another one was the shooter. And it is.
Oh my God, that was so good. Sorry.
It is so powerful. It is not a big flashy film, but
it's called Mass.
Mass, MASS. But it is so powerful and so well done.
That sounds great.
And again, low budget, core team, but like beautiful film. Definitely worth.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Definitely.
Well,
I mean, also, of course, but there's also obviously nothing wrong with watching violent movies if that's what, you know, keeps you from helps you deal with the violence that's in the world. I know for me, just to validate it, that like sometimes by watching horror movies, I'm like, it's a reprieve from the violence that I see when I, you know, go on my phone or on the news. And so there's nothing wrong with that and with needing that. I mean,
yeah, and I think what horror movies,
it's a dark place. It's a dark timeline.
Yeah, and I think what horror movies, genre movies, and content in general, they show that these things are things you can fight against and you can win. Sometimes, not always, but most of but it shows you like you can combat these things, you know, and you can fight against them. And I think that's part of the most compelling thing about these things, right? Is like, despite all odds, despite this like hopelessness, most of the time you see these characters fighting back against these monsters and this violence, and they do have this like need and desire to survive. And you should find, for me, I find hope in that. You know what I mean? Like there's no reason. And a lot of times in these stories, like people come together that shouldn't come together, that don't feel like they should, like these are just like typical like tropes about these ensemble genre films, but like in content, but like people that shouldn't get along do get along, and they come together for the sake of like a common cause. And like you see them like really putting their entire existence really, because it is life or death, into survival and to combating this monster. And what is that if not a metaphor for what we really have to do as people every
and now puppies.
Well,
Beautifully put, but also I need to feed my cat dinner.
yeah, I was gonna wrap here, so.
Just trying to act supportive of this conversation.
Oh, Luna's so supportive.
great
Thank
conversation.
you, Luna.
And I think Ben needs to go to bed.
Yeah, but so as I was trying to wrap here, I appreciate everybody's time and support for this, but also I want to say thanks, because we did get kind of serious here with the conversation, even though we did have some fun. But I hope that the conversations will continue, because it needs to be had. So I think we lost Matt because his battery died. So
yeah, he did message the group saying that. And I appreciate that all of you hung around. I mean, no one's burned their computer yet, so that's good.
So to wrap on a positive note, both Catherine and Jenna, what can people do to reach out on social media? Is there anything you could, I know Catherine was kind of saying some stuff in email. It's not for me to disclose. I know she's working on some stuff. But for both of you, is there something you can announce, say, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that? I know Jenna made an appearance on First Ladies. So
she was great. She was so great.
Thank you.
Oh.
Well, Katie and I are going to be in a movie. Well, we're not together, but we're both in the movie that will hopefully come out later this year or early next year, called Faceless After Dark, that I wrote and helped produce. And
Wow.
Yes, and it's very exciting, and I like it a lot. And Katie's amazing in it, and it'll be kind of absurdist horror, and I can't say much else, but I'm very excited about that. I can't wait for all of you to see it. I hope you'll like it.
Forward to at least.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
It's gonna be
And
really great.
yeah, I'm very excited about it. Have you? And I think I guess you guys you're doing your ADR at some point if you haven't already, for the convention stuff.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was like, what is she talking about? Yes, I've been emailing with Ray about it. We just haven't set it up yet, but we will. It will happen.
Awesome. I can't wait for you to see it. I just mean like I can't wait for you to see how that scene came together.
I'm excited to see it. We shot it. That's, I don't know, suppose, but we shot it on the road at some of these conventions.
Yeah, we actually did some like guerrilla low key filming at one of the conventions that we were at.
That's a fun little treat for everybody who likes genre, for sure.
Yeah, it's very meta. But anyway, I'm Squid Enthusiast on Instagram.
And I'm Insta Catherine with a C.
right on. So everybody, it is 20 after 10 here on the East Coast, and we appreciate everybody's time, and folks like Aaron, or excuse me, Ben, who's over in the UK. We usually have some folks from Australia and such.
Yeah, wait, it's like 5 a.m. for you or something, right? What are you doing?
20 past 3.
Oh my gosh, go to bed.
So I said Ben's got to go to bed.
Yeah, so
go to bed. You weren't kidding.
So everybody, thank you so much for the time and the support, and everybody have a good night.
This was
awesome. Thank you for doing this. Thank you guys for being here. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.